There's something we don't know. There's something we don't know.
Thank you. Hey, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Cool.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Oh
Great.
my God, it's great.
It
Did,
worked.
did that work?
Yes, it sounded beautiful. It
Thanks.
was awesome. Um,
Thank you.
yeah, man. Thanks so much for doing this. That was just really great. I mean, just for everybody watching, Eliot Krimsky, he's like just an astounding keyboardist, as you saw, and singer and songwriter, and should really check out some of his projects. Glass Ghost. You know, I think the first time I saw you and met you was when I saw Glass Ghost. I must have been like, I don't know, 15 years ago or something, or 12 years ago maybe.
It
At
could have been like 2008,
you remember New?
maybe, or 9.
Yeah, you
Yeah.
remember 92Y Tribeca,
Yeah,
that
didn't we
show?
play a show together yeah, was that the first
Uh,
time?
Yeah, that I
Yeah.
think that was the first time, and I bought the CDR off you from,
Oh
I
my
think it
God.
was Diamond. What was it called?
It was called
Um,
Physical.
oh yeah, Physical. That's right. Had that song on it though.
Oh,
Like
so
it,
that's really early. That's probably some of the first shows that we played.
yeah, and like that, just like there are a few bands where I like see them once, and I'm just like this is my favorite music, and now I'm a lifelong fan, and I will listen to everything these people do.
That's awesome.
But that was definitely one of those experiences for me. Yeah, that band with Mike, and those beats, just the two of you, like seeing how much you can do, how much sound you can produce, just you with the drummer.
Yeah.
It was really inspiring. So yeah, everybody watching, please go check out Glass Ghost because that is some amazing music. They have a few records. But yeah, so thanks for doing this. You're the first non-drummer to be on our stream.
I'm
So
honored.
yeah, it's exciting. Yeah, so just a bit of context for this event. Oh, by the way, I'm Talakael, co-founder of Sunhouse. I always forget to introduce myself. But we did a sound pack with Elliot a while ago called Lunar Cities. Elliot came to the office, worked with Steven, and produced this really beautiful sound pack. I think definitely one of the best we've done. And so I wanted to bring you on just to talk about that, to talk
Yeah.
about your work and what you do. And yeah, so I guess maybe let's just start um, with like your your musical career. You've been you were a pianist, right? You started out with piano,
Yeah,
so
I guess my background's in jazz, like you.
yeah.
Um,
Uh,
but I always loved everything else and hip hop, and I made a lot of hip hop beats growing up, and R&B was my. I listened to so much R&B and Stevie Wonder and funk in high school, so that was always and jazz. So that was always been a huge part of me. Um, but then yeah, I moved to New York and played in some jazz bands, but then kind of, I think my dream was always to start my own bands and started getting into the indie scene, and that was exciting to me because there's a lot of new kinds of sounds going on and new combinations of things. So I started this indie band called Flying, and it was pretty wild for me. It was really exciting because it wasn't playing jazz. It wasn't like jazz crowds. It was people, non musicians I was playing for, which I had always wanted. And some of the folks from the band were not trained musicians, so we were kind of going about it more visually and thinking about concepts and ideas. And in music school, it was much more about notes and things like that. So it was such a breaking through for me to do that band, and it was the first time that I ever sang really in front of people, which was
that's
totally terrifying.
yeah. Yeah. So that's it's funny the idea of like playing for non-musicians and like
Right.
like how do you change your approach? Like jazz is, it's like still, so core to every all of my musical perspective.
Me too.
But I definitely had the same experience as you, like, playing jazz music and going to jazz clubs. It's, like it's like me and all my friends and all the musicians I know, and like some tourists, I guess, in New York, and like moving over to indie rock and different types of genres like that. It was like this really interesting shift in like um, how you take into consideration the audience, I guess, in a different kind of way.
Definitely.
Um, yeah, it's interesting. So, I'm curious, like coming from piano and jazz piano, um, fully acoustic music, a lot of craft, a lot of, study, and moving and seeing where you are today with all of that gear, which I want to get into, and like buttons and knobs and kind of navigating what seems to me to look to seems kind of complicated. What was that transition like for you? And like, was that a slow build? Was it, what was the inspiration for that? And like, how was it for you as a, like a trained musician to then get into, that world?
I would say it was an incredibly slow build. Um, I think probably starting. I'd always been into synthesizers, and I had early samplers when I was in high school, like floppy disk, in Sonic ASR10, um, and I made pretty basic kind of beats on those. So I always loved collage,
Hmm.
um, and Public Enemy was like my favorite band, and the way they collaged music together was always exciting to me. So that kind of aesthetic, I think, I've always held with me. But I think it was a long build for me. Starting from more just like a general interest in the sounds that synthesizers can make, and to now getting much deeper into like what they can do and how they behave, and um, so yeah, it's probably about a 15-year build. I think it's really blossomed more in the past 5 years since I kind of, out of functionality, tried to start doing solo music,
Hmm.
and um, figuring out how to create, um, how to play and keep it very simple, and stay to my musical roots, but have some other kind of organisms, other almost band members' music happening at the same time. And I feel like I've been trying to figure that out now for past 5 years or so. I've never been a knobs person, and
Mhm.
that's never made any that much sense to me. So yeah, I've come to it pretty slow. With I love technology and I love using it, but I'm not a super gearhead where I know every little thing about it. I think I'm really good at finding something, some almost mistakes in it, or something unusual or anomalies in it, and trying to capture that. I think that's what I've been trying to do this whole time.
Yeah.
So I find, yeah, now I'm at a point where I've done a bunch of solo shows, and I'm starting to get more comfortable with the gear I have, and also production has gotten me much deeper into like how to make a synth musical, things like that.
Mhm.
And
Yeah.
so
Well, speaking of those synths, what are you using back there, and like how are things plugged into each other? I think I saw a OP1 on there, and it looks like you have an expression pedal down there and some
yeah, it's
others.
not too complicated. I mean, it's just I'm playing the Prophet synthesizer, which I've had now for about 5 or 6 years, and the deeper I get into it, the more amazed I am by it. Like these mystical kinds of sounds that sometimes almost sound like acoustic instruments or nature. Those are the kind of sounds that I just try to find. So I'm playing that as my main synthesizer, but the one thing I kind of discovered this past week, I didn't totally know what I was going to do for this, and I figured it would be a good opportunity to mostly improvise, and I'm trying to write a bunch of new music. So, and I came on a discovery this week, which was I've been it's pretty simple. I've just been using my controller to play the Prophet, and have the OP1 control the Prophet as well sometimes. And then sometimes I have the Prophet, my controller, playing the Prophet and the OP1 together on Ableton's.
So how there's on some of those songs there was percussive elements.
Yeah.
Were those like how are those how are those things layered on?
Yeah, so I was basically, my controller was playing the Prophet sometimes, and the OP1 at the same time. The OP1 has it's such a quirky machine. It has a sequencer that for each key plays a different sequence.
Mm-hmm.
So for one of those, I was playing my Prophet, and that was triggering different drum sequences, which I was then able to filter while I was playing. And that kind of thing makes sense to me as like where I come from, I think, because whatever's happening, it's being triggered by the keyboard sounds, and there's a lot of chance in it, but I'm getting into that kind of thing.
You're kind of doing like, it's funny because a lot of this gear is made from the perspective of a keyboard player. It's all, MIDI is for keyboards, and synths have this long history. And
yeah.
But I think one thing that's interesting about sensory percussion that we've found is like the feeling of tying weird things that do other things that you wouldn't expect to drumming actions.
Yes.
And it's the same thing that you're describing of like being a pianist, playing the keyboard and having that same musical muscle memory and action, doing other things that are programmatic or
you froze. Shoot. Oh, you froze. Sorry, I missed what you just said.
Sorry about that. My internet was unstable for a moment. Sorry. But yeah, just like being able to hijack your muscle memory and your abilities on the keys to have them do weird things, or like extra the other band members in a way, like embedding it into your playing in this.
Totally. And that even though there's so much like uncertainty with that makes that's been making a lot of sense to me. And it's just also a way to get, like, I'm not a person, I think, where I'm like I'm a big programmer. I'm gonna like program the drums and have it all somewhere. Like, I can do that, and I've gotten better at that. But yeah, it feels more organic or more intuitive to me to have it like be triggered by different notes. So that's been really fun, and it gives some rhythmic qualities, which is like really hard to find when you're playing solo. It's hard to get.
Yeah.
If you're not just playing like a drum machine or something.
So how in those pieces you played, how composed were they? How much like improvisation was built into it?
I mean, it was like probably about 90% improvised. I thought it'd be cool. There was a little idea that I had done for the second Lunar Cities that's gonna come out at some point in the fall, I think. Is that right?
We haven't announced it, but yeah. So,
I'm so sorry.
No, it's fine. It's no, it's exciting.
And anyway, it was just like an idea that kind of started there. So I listened back to that and played some of that. But other than that, I really just kind of like this week just set some environments for myself, and I've been making some sounds on the Prophet, and kind of like making my own sort of sound pack. So I used some of those sounds and put some of those sounds into the OP1, and just kind of left a lot of space open. Made these environments, and then there's like so much space open for improvisation. So yeah, I mean, it was mostly improvised, which is always a little bit terrifying for me, even though I feel like I am an improviser, but it's quite scary.
You've performed on a lot of stages and like in a lot of, I've seen you do solo shows and play with bands and stuff. How is it streaming instead?
I'm fascinated with it. I think it's I really want to learn about it more. It's, I think I'm sure a lot of people feel that's super strange and very nerve wracking because like one thing can happen and then it can all die out. So I was definitely feeling some of that. But once I got into it, it didn't feel that different from a performance, other than you don't have the energy in the room.
Hmm.
But I'm interested in what it could become. I mean, it could be a whole separate medium or something.
Yeah. Yeah, it's
I mean, it was very like, I mean, just all that we went through to kind of get this working was it's a little nerve wracking.
yeah.
Do you
Yeah,
feel that?
it shouldn't be that complicated, but sometimes it is, regardless of how prepared you
Well, I feel really grateful that I got to kind of learn how it works for future times doing it.
are. Cool.
Yeah.
So back to you mentioned Lunar Cities. What was it like recording that sound pack with Steven? What was that process like? How did you guys do that?
It was so cool. It was I came in there not knowing what to expect. Um, I was thinking maybe you guys were gonna have a lot of ideas and throw them onto me, um, but it was really the opposite. It felt like that I was given so much room to be myself and so much room. Um, Basically, we ended up just making these pieces that felt like performances. Um, and so it felt super open, and yeah, I just I love you guys. I love the vibe in there. It feels very organic and creative. So yeah, I felt very much myself, which I really appreciated.
Awesome. Yeah, hopefully we get back to the studio and we can
I know. That'd be
this.
great. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, so we ended up doing, and we spent like a full day on Lunar Cities, and tried. I improvised pieces, or things that felt like improvised pieces, and just tried a lot of variation, and didn't, you know, had some back and forth with you guys and with Steven, but it just really felt super wonderful, and that nobody quite knew where it was going to go, and I love that. So I think like the thing that I feel excited about this pack is that it emanated from something that was organic, and that people can take that and make that into their own thing. So yeah.
How much of a consideration was there, knowing that it would be applied, in sensor percussion on drums as like, triggered kind of sounds?
It's interesting because the first that day there was very, I mean, I thought about it, but I we it was very hard to conceptualize how. I'm actually really glad that we didn't. It was very hard to conceptualize how it was going to sound on the drum. We tried it out, but I'm very glad that I didn't like put that in my mind before I played. I mean, I knew I was sort of playing it to think about different sounds for this, um, but there was very little actually, and it was afterwards where we talked about how how a little bit how we want the sounds to be, or Stephen sent me a bunch of the sounds and we had a bit of a discussion about it, but we had since gotten together and tried to do it the other way, and I think that'll be fun too, but it was almost a little bit harder because it was starting to get in my head.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
What was it like hearing the result, like hearing how it was like hearing a song kind of embedded in drums in a way?
it was pretty exciting. The first time that I saw some of those videos, it was kind of unbelievable to see all these different people playing these original ideas that I had and doing it in a million different ways. It's like, oh my god, this is something that I want to do a lot more. And once I start to see the feedback, then I can then I think I can now start to get an idea of how to go in there thinking about how it's going to sound on the drums and sensory. Um, yeah, so it's pretty exciting. I was just watching some of the videos today and like, you know, seeing these drummers play some of the chords that I was playing and throw them in different places, and it's like, oh my God, this is like a whole new kind of creativity.
Cool. So just generally, how do you go about doing sound design with synths? Like, it's hard. It's not an easy thing because like for me, like I can hear things that I like and I can imagine sounds, but getting that out of a machine is another thing entirely. And then like, yeah, how do you approach that?
I know a few things about synths. I'm not like a synth, you know, one of these total that can like take a sound from total scratch and make any sound. Like I can do a few things, but so there's a lot of experimentation. I kind of, the more I do it, I know what I'm looking for. I know what I like. I'm not always sure how to get it. Now I'm getting there about how to get it, but
What
yeah,
about, well, sorry,
yeah.
go ahead.
No, the more and more this is more of a recent thought, but it's the sounds that I love are things that I have not planned about 99% of the time, and I'm trying to just be open to that as much as possible. You know, so recently I've been trying to just stay super open to that. It's usually like a mistake that happens, something that I hit, and I'm like, oh my God, this is so weird. Why does this sound like birds suddenly? And then I hit the LFO, and it's like this crazy bird thing with some delay, and you know, so it's just new explorations. And I think, you know, learning now that I basically understand the basics of it, that helps tremendously. But yeah, I'm still kind of like, rarely do I find a sound where I start from it and you know, I know what I'm going to make, and then I end up making that. It's almost
Right.
never happens.
There was one song in there that you played that sounded almost microtonal or something.
Yeah. I've been really enjoying these kind of synth sounds that almost sound like gamelan.
Mhm.
Where it has these like harmonics, you know, and stuff like that. I really love. Yeah.
So when you're, sounds aside, there's a really strong element in your performances where you make these sounds really expressive and you're turning what is just like, a machine to like a real instrument. And I think that's what's so striking about the sounds you make and how you perform with them. And how do you do that? How do you make the connection from here's sound bank A and here's sound bank B, or here's an effect, and if I do this, or if I like, because there's physical motions involved, but then there's also like manipulating the machine in ways and making those connections between your body and the machine. And
Yeah, totally.
I think that's what's really kind of striking about the sounds you make. So how do you do that?
I don't always know. Thank you. That's a really awesome observation. I mean, there's a few things that I think that I found that I love that I kind of go back to. In terms of expression, my expression pedal, which is super simple, but goes very far away. So I've gotten, as you say, it's sort of an extension of your body, right? Like these technology, and that's what you're doing at Sensory. And I find the few things that feel natural to me, and I guess I've been trying to go with those and really like explore them for a long time. So yeah, the just doing a low pass filter, which is super simple but has gone a really long way with expression. And the I discovered that there was aftertouch on my old controller, and I use it all the time. It's amazing.
That's
So I use that with the prophet all the time for expression in conjunction with the, the expression pedal. And then it's just finding these, like we were saying before, these sort of anomaly kind of things with other instruments that can then chain to the prophet that you can get a great deal of expression with.
that's cool.
Yeah.
That's really, really nice.
But
Um,
the hardest thing is just to not try to do too much, and I feel like I'm always struggling with that.
Yeah, I think that's one thing that really struck me about this performance was the amount of restraint, like simple melodies and harmonies, and then you just land on this voicing, and it was like these bright moments and it happened like a handful of times,
Oh, cool.
and it was just like so, I don't know, ecstatic, I guess.
Oh, thanks. I think going back to the musician, to being a jazz musician, and I think that's a big challenge has been how to find restraint with everything, and
But
can make it interesting.
are you using those jazz voicings?
Love the jazz voicings, and the cluster voicings and
Yeah,
monk kind of stuff. Stevie Wonder, yeah.
yeah,
I think that was
So-
from an early age. Yeah, always love that.
yeah. So what are you working on now, these days?
I'm trying to make another album, and I think doing it a different way, instead of ruminating over the songs too much. I'm just trying to capture some newness or some interesting idea, some sound that and build from that. So
Yeah.
I'm building from a lot of different ideas, and I have no idea what I'm doing, and it feels about right.
That's exciting. Well, I'm excited to hear it.
Yeah.
It's great. Yeah. I spin your records like all the time, so
Oh, thank you.
everyone on the
It's nice to hear about Glass Ghost because I have a warm spot in my heart for it, and hope to do something again with Mike at some point.
that would be great. Yeah, Mike's off doing the whole Dirty Projectors thing now, right?
Yeah.
It's awesome.
Yeah.
But so thanks so much for doing this stream. That was incredible. I'm really glad that we had the opportunity to do something different and show this other side of what we do and this collaboration we did.
Thank you for
and,
the opportunity.
Yeah, thanks so much. So everybody, please, if you haven't already, check out his entire discography, the solo records, Glass Ghost, Flying. It's all great. And keep we'll keep you posted on some new stuff, which will be exciting.
Yeah.
And so just real quick, I just want to plug, we're doing another stream with Greg Fox on Friday at 3 p.m. So Eastern time. So everybody, make sure to check that out. And do you have anything you want to add, things to check out, or?
I've been, I have a very close friend. Did you ever meet Rob Stillman?
No, that name sounds.
You might have crossed paths in New York, but he lives in England now. But he's brilliant, and he sent me some solo music, keyboard music that he made recently, and it really just inspired me. We go back a long way, so his music is great. So if anybody out there, check it out.
Check out Rob Stillman.
Yeah.
Cool. All right, man. Well, let's wrap it up. And thanks again for joining and doing this for us. And again, beautiful performance. And
Thanks so
Thanks for
much.
everything.
Really appreciate it.
All right.
All right.
All right,
See
man.
you
Take
later.
care.
Bye.